19. If we will stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bear with me for a moment. Open up. At this time, I will take attendance. Miss Melanie Anderson.
Present.
Mr. Tommy Clay.
Here.
Mr. John Kreisman. Here. Jeff Fadley is out. Mr. Harry Moldenhauer.
Here.
Mr. Carl Leonard.
Here.
And myself. Moving on to item agenda number 2, ratifying the actions of our November 12th, 2019 meeting.
Are we doing that now or after we read the minutes?
Let's see. Steve. I'm sorry.
Steve.
John and I discussed this, and it was my recommendation that we bring this up as an action item because we did not have theoretically a full quorum at the last meeting.
Right.
So I think the proper thing would be a motion and an action to ratify the actions taken by the board at the last meeting,
Right.
just to kill any doubt about.
And that was to decide on where to spend the money.
Correct.
Okay.
All of the action that was taken.
Everything that happened.
It's for all action that we took at the last meeting. There were 4 members present, but only 3 voting members. So by the quorum definition, we had to have 4 voting members of the 5 that could vote. So if we could, after review, looking at the meeting minutes that have been proposed, whether or not we would accept and ratify all actions taken at the November 12th meeting.
Frankly, I think that's a bad thing. A quorum should be a majority. It shouldn't be a supermajority. Supermajority would apply on actionable items, but for members present, this is a governing body, a body of government, and the regular rules ought to apply. I think that's a bad provision, but just to be safe, we just ratify the action, all of the action taken by at the prior board meeting.
Do I have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion that we ratify all actions of the OUA Board of Directors at the November 12th, 2019 meeting.
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item agenda number 3 is the acceptance of the meetings that we had on November the 12th.
I make a motion as we accept as written.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item agenda number 4 is our consent agenda.
Are we, Mr. Chairman, are we going to add this into the consent agenda or later on?
We can do it under items from the executive director if you would prefer.
Okay.
That being said, I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as written.
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. Moving on to item agenda number 12.
Mr. Chairman, board members, we have had a request of as luck would have it, on Northwest 28th Avenue, the last property owner is building a house and has requested OUA service to extend the water main approximately 250 feet, which would be a 2-inch poly line, is around $7,600. That would complete the southern section, if you will, of Northwest 28th Avenue. as in recommended by previous actions, the OUA has generally accepted the cost of doing the water main extension with the guarantee that one or more of these people would connect. And certainly Mr. Luviano said that on his property of 3225 Northeast 28th Avenue, he is requesting service. So I would request of the board to consider approval of our expenditure of $7,600 for the extension of a 2-inch water main.
Well, we're slowly infiltrating Basswood with our water lines, aren't we?
Yes, sir.
Getting there.
It's my understanding, if, maybe, Mr. Chairman, from reading this, that the reason we absorbed the cost on the last one, the last meeting that we decided on the extension of the water lines for bookkeeping purposes, to make it easier for bookkeeping. I personally think we erred, because every landowner should be responsible for that. Should be some kind of a bookkeeping system we could put in place where we could tie it to the property, and when then they tie in, they could pay.
When we discussed it, if we're talking about the most convenient way, would be to go ahead and assess the properties, vacant or otherwise, and we get our money, if you will, now for the construction purposes, because those properties, the 3 vacant properties plus the one at 3225, those 4 properties are receiving the benefit of that water main extension, whether they are using it or not. So clearly we could do assessment, but for assessing 4 properties is, a lot of work for just doing 4 properties rather than saying a whole subdivision of, 100 properties.
So, John, if I may ask a question, the property that's being assessed, is that construction, or are they just responsible for the connection cost?
If we were to do the assessment methodology, it would be for construction only. And then they would pay the connection charges that are applicable at the time of installation.
I'm all for extending the water lines, potentially bringing customers in, but they need to be responsible for the construction cost, is my personal opinion.
The trade-off for that was, or at least the flip side of that conversation would be that if we were out here, pick a street, Southwest 5th Avenue, and a water main had been installed in the 80s or 90s, and somebody came up on a vacant property and said, I wish to connect, for that particular project or that property, it would just be the connection charges. There would not be any capital construction charges applied to them. So again, that's kind of the differentiation that we run into for new construction, extensions, if you will. If we were to charge these folks for the construction costs, why wouldn't we do that for anybody else on the system, whether the water main was installed within the last 6 months or 6 years ago? I mean, it's just the kind of the dilemma that we run into for these policies and procedures. And so I think that was some of the discussions that we had the last time.
Yeah, we kicked around a lot of ideas about linear footage. We talked about a lot of
Yes, sir.
things, but how long can we put water lines in and not recoup our investment? That's just my thoughts.
Well, I agree to an extent, but we are laying an infrastructure for a community. And we're actually investing back into our community. We're actually investing back into a community, a part of our community that does need this, with the landfill and everything else that sits right there joining that property. It's just a tough deal, John, like you say, because we've already done it this way. It's kind of hard to go back and change up. We need to have a plan for the whole community out there. I'm all about getting them their water. And again, like you say, if somebody builds a house over on one of these streets that has water, all they have to pay for is a connection fee because it's already there. This one's not already there, so I see John's point, but it's $7,000, and it's not like that we've done, what, in the past 6 or 7 years, we've done 8 or 10 homes out there, maybe,
I would say it's been more than that.
more than that?
Because we've had this road, this road's had 3 extensions on it at different times. 30th Avenue, 37th Avenue. I mean, there's several of them that we've done out there.
Okay.
And we've had both sides of this. We've had it where we have charged them. If you remember, one of the last ones we did, we actually collected some construction money, but then we had to pay them back to them. So from a staff perspective, all we would like is to have a policy that we can set and stay with.
Right.
So that we know how to discuss this with the applicants when they come in. And so we're good either way, but we would just certainly like to have some kind of guidance on what the policy is so that we can deal with this on a day-to-day basis.
Well, if you could explain to me what the difference would be. You know, we're extending a brand-new water line on 28th, Northwest 28th Avenue. So virtually, the way I look at that, it's new construction. It wasn't there before. We're putting a new infrastructure in. We're getting ready to walk into the southwest section. What's to say that's not going to happen somewhere you go down a road that there's no homes and then there's a home at the end? We're going to run into the same problem again. Are we going to absorb the cost and hopefully down the road somewhere someone will pay the connection charges and we'll never recoup the construction cost? That's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking too far down the road. What's happening here? Why won't they implement that down the road later?
And therein lies the dilemma that we run into from a staff perspective. Our general operating procedures talks about extensions and that the developer shall pay. So the question is, are we the developer in this case,
Right.
and we should pay the line extension, or are we not? And so that's kind of where we get into this dilemma as to whether or not we, the OUA, should pay for this line extension and then connect customers up, or are we looking at it from a standpoint that multiple people should share in the pain and the finances of extending this line? And so that's kind of where we sit.
Wasn't there a policy in place until this last thing happened and we reverted to refund the money? Didn't we have a firm policy in place?
The policy specifically with Basswood
just
has
said,
been
the
several different ways. If you remember about this line extension where that kind of happened before was with fire hydrants. The position was, well, that was at the request of that particular developer or landowner, and the policies were eventually modified such that it would be a 50-50 cost share between the person requesting the hydrant and the OUA, because there would be general public that would be benefiting from the hydrant. That way would be our OUA share of the cost versus the particular business or landowner that was requesting the hydrant for their benefit. So we ultimately shared in that perspective for the fire hydrant installation a 50-50 cost share. On these water mains, we've had it both ways, multiple times. This particular agenda item was based upon at least the last time where it was determined that the OUA was a developer, was a line extension. We should pay that, and then the different property owners would have to pay their fair share for the connection cost to get on the system. But we have had it, to answer your question, we've had it multiple ways in Basswood over the last 4 or 5 years.
Sounds to me like we need to define a policy for you to make life easier.
Well, I mean, if we stayed with the last policy, which is we pay for the line extension, that's fine. If it's cost sharing, I'm okay with that, and we'll figure it out. But Yes, sir. If we had that policy, it makes it a little bit easier.
So the differential would be existing versus new construction. That would be the line in the sand. You got new construction versus existing infrastructure.
Correct. I mean, if it's existing and somebody walks in and says, I want service, well, then it's the standard connection fees that are applicable at that time. For this case, because there is a small segment of pipe that needs to go in, I kind of would be on the side that I like the benefit of having the customers, so we have the long-term operational benefits of having the customers as well as the financial. And then it's also available for these 3 other parcels once they develop.
I wholeheartedly agree, but I think we need to take some time, however, and develop a policy versus this versus that. And then you'll have your marching orders, and it doesn't have to come to the board every time.
I think it would still come to the board to decide whether or not it's cost effective to extend the line.
Right.
At that point, so we're still going to talk about them. It's just whether or not who's going to pay, it's whether or not we're going to pay.
We have boilerplate at that time. Sure, I agree, Harry. Yes. Okay, well, we move forward with this. As far as I'm concerned, we just need to define something for the future.
Yeah, we're not Miami-Dade, so it's not like we're flush with money. So these kind of projects, I would imagine, are going to continue to prop up, especially out there,
There's no yes or no answer.
Yeah, I don't think there is. And if you get one of those streets that has no houses on it except for the one at the very end, I'm not for hooking him without doing something along the street. But we also need a mandatory hookup
Right.
as we move forward with those kind of things. So this guy's come to us and said, yeah, I want water on the end of my street. We're down that street. It's going to cost us $7,500 or whatever to finish the street. I don't have an issue with that, but I'm like John, I think we have to figure out how we're going to do this going forward. But it's like Harry says, it's always going to come back to us when it comes to that guy that has the only house on the street.
Right.
But it seems to be that's where our development's taken off in the past couple of years, has been because of the cheap lots and paved roads and everything else out there, So, but we just had the grant money and did the other side, Whispering Pines side. We did it all for free because of grant money. So it's.
Well, it did cost us, but
Yeah,
not
not
for
a
the
lot.
construction.
Yeah.
That was a developer agreement, basically.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that here. But that's something else we need to take into account, developer agreements.
So, I mean, the only way to grow this system is either through grant money or for us to reinvest back into it.
Right.
Because if you go out to Basswood and ask the guys on the end of the street, will you pay $3,000 or whatever your part to run a line to you? Some of them will say, yeah, probably. You might get a 50% if you're lucky. So going forward, we're just going to have to, like John says, we're just going to have to figure out some kind of policy as to how we do this. I'm all for hooking this guy up because it cleans up the street and we possibly get 3 more pieces of property. And it is a benefit to the real estate broker when he goes, hey, this guy's
Water available.
got water available. I keep wanting to say city water, but
Well, I do think weighing the economic benefit, the fact that it's in a platted subdivision. I mean, if it was a 5-mile stretch out in the middle of nowhere, where would the economic benefit be?
right.
I mean, those are factors that I think, the economic benefit, is it in a platted subdivision? What's the potential additional customers on that?
And John, is he the in lot?
Yes, sir, he's the red square on that photo. He's the last one.
Yeah, well, my glasses aren't as good as they used to be. What would be the benefit of looping that?
There's always the benefit of looping The only problem is there isn't a line on either street.
Well, I was just thinking though, if maybe we ask for a right of way to loop across his property and for future.
Here's an idea.
There may already be, I don't know, I don't have the plat in front of me. There may be utility easements on the side of the
They very well
lot.
might
I
already
don't
have
know.
that
I'm
set
just
up.
thinking, how we go down and start working our way back up from the other end. Just trying to think out of the box to help the community. But I'm all about moving forward with this. You need a motion? Is that what we need?
Yes.
I make a motion that we move forward with, what are we calling this?
Extension.
You can go on to the northwest.
The line extension on, what's this?
Northwest 28th Avenue.
Northwest 28th Ave.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
There it is.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item agenda number 13, Southwest Wastewater Service Area, the pump station.
Mr. Chairman and board members, you'll see in your package, OUA staff along with various property owners, underlying property owners have kind of come up with a proposal for purchasing a 2-acre parcel out of the southwest corner of the school board property that's shown in the attachment. In, if you will, preliminary discussions with both the engineer as well as others, there was the discussion that there were a couple, I don't want to call them deficiencies, but there were some things with the property that if the OUA was to move forward with these, they would be more or less incentives to consider the purchase. Those issues being a boundary survey of the 40-acre parcel that would clearly show and define the 2-acre parcel of which the OUA was requesting. The 40-acre parcel is subject to some previously recorded plats that needed to be, for lack of a better term, vacated. And clearly those things would, the last thing being a appraisal of the property, trying to establish what is the value of that property. So as you can see, we've gone ahead with the appraisal. I've attached a copy of that appraisal in your board package. We have secured a boundary survey, and we have made a tentative request, if you will, of the school board to consider the sale of 2 acres to the OUA. That also has been made.
Did you have a copy of
To that end, certainly I would be happy to discuss this at any questions you might have, but the intent was if we obtain this parcel, we then lock down the location of the pump station and the vacuum station, and we can move forward what we have described as Project 1, which is the regional pump station and the force main from that site up to our existing pump station in W15, which is up near the soccer fields near the airport. Until we have this parcel identified wherever the pump station is, all the rest of that work is kind of on hold until we acquire a pump station site. I can tell you that this is the third parcel that we've tried to reach a tentative agreement on. If this doesn't work, we go on to parcel 4, wherever that may be.
Yeah, I think that if you can get an agreement with the school board, it's going to be your quickest, easiest way. Even though, are we buying the piece that's got the gold mine on it?
Looks like it.
No comment.
Yeah, I understand what they paid for the property and everything and all, but I think it's the only way that you get this thing up and off the ground, because we know what the property owners have said up to this piece of property.
Somewhere around no.
Yeah,
Put it nicely.
and I think there was some words before the no.
I think it was.
So, and going on, the other pieces up there is still Fulford property, isn't it, Jeff? Once you leave that, that's still in that Fulford deal. So if that piece is worth 72, I guarantee you the piece bordering it's worth 72. Correct?
So I've been told, yes, sir.
Yeah. So, again, I think it's the only way we get this thing up off the ground if we can get an agreement with the school board.
I didn't get a copy of the appraisal on.
Oh, it wasn't nothing.
It wasn't, you didn't get it either?
I think the school board paid 40-something thousand for that property, an acre.
The answer to your question, I was just told no.
40,
It didn't go out.
I don't remember, I closed the deal, but
Yeah, I was thinking it was around 40 grand an acre, and we're actually being
probably a
requested.
little more than that.
Yeah, I think we're at 36 an acre, so they're taking a loss on it.
Wow.
We'll send the appraisal out. I thought it went out, but we can send it out. It came back at 36,000 per acre.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that ought to make Oak Park just priceless.
Really?
There may be buried treasure on some of those parcels, too.
So what do we need, a motion here, or?
Need a motion to accept.
I make a motion that we move forward with or make a motion that we accept the plan to, tell me how you want it, Tom.
I would almost, Tom, if I can, certainly if you agree to the idea of the survey appraised value and the plat work, and extend that offer to the school board for the 2-acre parcel.
So said.
That makes sense. I second it.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those, any further discussion?
Tom?
You all understand, I can't play a role in this.
Right, yes.
I'm all in favor of the project John and I are both selfish on this. I want to see it happen.
Yep.
But I've got no business advising you or the school board.
Right.
They're both my clients.
Right.
But I think the motion would be appropriate to make an offer to the school board.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The meeting is when?
Tomorrow, 6 p.m.
School board meeting tomorrow night, tomorrow afternoon, yes.
This afternoon. Okay.
And it's on school board agenda tomorrow.
Good deal.
Yeah, that's
But
what
you
the
can't
motion is,
recommend
is to make
anything
an
to them
offer.
either.
Well, I mean, I'll tell them the same thing I told you. Now, I don't know whether you want to go further and try and select somebody to represent this board in connection with that or not.
John, or?
Was that John
Probably-
Kreisman?
Well, he works for the school system.
Oh, I guess that means John Hayford then. Thank you, John Kreisman.
But yeah, I think that'd be appropriate to have someone there.
I was going to recommend Jeff be there.
Jeff and John. I think both of you need to be there.
Accepted.
If we show up, we have to publicize it, right? More than one of us?
Well, your spokesman, that should be sufficient.
Yeah.
Unless we just went as John Q. Public, right?
Right.
We're allowed to attend then, but we can't sit next to each other.
But I would recommend Jeff Sumner and John Hayford to be at the meeting.
You got a meeting you're supposed to be at tomorrow?
Yes.
It's open for discussion, I guess, later this morning, as far as whether we're going to Tallahassee.
This meeting takes precedent, I think, the school board meeting.
I can be at the school board meeting if it allows John to go to Tallahassee, which I'm sure he's excited about.
Yeah, he's going up to meet the new coach, right?
We're going to, yes. The answer to your question is yes.
If John can't, it's a long ride up to Tallahassee, all right? I've spoke to Connie during the week, and Connie's got us covered with respect of representation over there. John and I have been meeting with the representatives down in their own office, and To me, it's more advantageous to us because we can spend more time with them. Going up to Tallahassee to spend 5 minutes on a 10-hour trip is not, in my opinion, good business sense, when I can sit down in their office and one-on-one discuss what our needs are and have them retain the information. And it's the retention of the information. You know, yes, it's nice to see our face, don't get me wrong, all right? But we get more done on a one-to-one basis.
I agree with that.
Absolutely.
I agree with that.
I mean,
Mr. Chairman, if I could certainly offer this, to me, the impression is the acquisition of this parcel is the most important item
Right.
for OUA business at this time
Yes.
because of the idea that it's not necessarily holding up, but it is certainly delaying to a certain extent the rest of the design of Project One.
Correct.
And while there may be other properties out there that we could find and try to go after, this is the priority project right at this moment. That's the way I kind of look at it.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree. And said and done. Moving on to item agenda number 14.
And if I can, the idea, I guess, the appointment was more directed just to attend the meeting or to attend the meeting and provide any other information to the school board, not necessarily direction or speaking for the OUA board. Is that my understanding of what we're supposed to do tomorrow?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Got it.
Whatever they ask. Be there to represent and answer questions. It's a no-brainer for them. I mean, they automatically get a sewage system. They don't have to build their own.
Well, but besides just the sale, yes, they're getting the survey and they're getting the plat issue cleared up, and it makes the property certainly capital-wise more valuable that sewer and water is available, whether they build a school or turn around and sell the remaining 38 acres. I mean, it does make that property more valuable.
You know, I mean, if they build the school, they hook in. If we don't go there, then they've got to build a treatment plant.
Or extend the line to their
Right,
school.
absolutely. So
Yes, sir. So, I mean, there is some,
it's a win-win for everybody.
there is certainly a benefit to the school, for sure.
Absolutely.
More so than just the sale price of the property at a rate that's less than what they paid for it. Yes, we can't make up that difference, but they can more than make up the difference because of the other added benefits.
The added values, yes. Yep.
So other than the pump station, the only other thing I can report is that by January, we would be able to bring back the modified professional services agreement. That will certainly point out the work needed for this Project One, which is the pump station and force main. Hopefully, we'll have some feedback from the USDA on the preliminary engineering report. So I would hope that there would be several things to talk about at our January meeting.
Okay.
Already jumped to 17. You want to continue with your report?
Sir?
Okay. Agenda item 17, that's we're in the middle of your report, aren't we?
13.
Okay, moving on to item agenda number 14, the Pine Ridge Park sale that fell through.
Mr. Chairman and the board members, the highest bid, which was the Garcia property, I guess after further review, they elected not to sign the sales contract for the property. So you have before you the property to the south submitted the other bid for the property. We would like authorization to enter, or at least to extend to them, a sales contract for their bid price of $1,025 for this parcel.
John, that's the old well site, wasn't it?
That's our old water treatment plant site that they used to have on there.
Yeah.
It's a very small parcel. It would certainly benefit. The reason why we went to those two parcels is it would be a benefit to those two parcels, either as an extension for their backyard or an extension for their side yard. And that's why we went to a direct sale for that surplus piece of property. Right now, we're paying to maintain it, and we have no use for it. That's why we deemed it as surplus property, and we would like to sell it to one of those two property owners.
John, is there any way we can sink it back to them for a reasonable offer? In my opinion, $1,025 is not a reasonable offer when it market value is $5,000. You know, I can personally, 10% one way or the other is very reasonable, and see if they'll entertain changing their bid, bringing it up a little bit, or if not, we can re-advertise. I understand it's not a sellable piece of property, but.
Well, we can do whatever you want. I mean, we had the sealed bids. I can tell you that the property owner that had the higher bid wanted to build something on the lot, and that is not a question that we can answer. We referred them to the building department, planning department of the county. Whether or not this lot was made and adjoined to the other parcel, whether or not they could build on it, that's not our question to answer. I would imagine the only way they would be interested in, and now this is a guess on my part, but we would have to get that question answered from the building department before they would entertain purchasing the property. We can do whatever you want.
Well, is there any way we can counter their bid with another one? Is that appropriate?
Of course, you can take no action on this and go back and see, of course.
Yeah, 'cause you know, I know that they're the best people for the property, of course, since the others walked away, but, you know, we've got money invested in there too.
Well, we have money invested in the sense that we had to do the demolition of the treatment plant. Yes, we have that money, but if you remember, we actually acquired this through abandonment. We always are going to have some intrinsic value in the property. We've paid to have it mowed and cleaned up, and we can do whatever the board directs us to do. I just didn't have that ability to counter the offer. So we have two
What
bids.
does it cost us to maintain it?
Sir?
What does it cost us?
I'm going to guess that the mowing contract is probably under $30. I mean, it's not terrible, but we did have the demolition cost of building and a tank. But again, we obtained the property through abandonment procedures. So we didn't really buy the property. But we can do whatever you want.
We've had this property, what, about 4 or 5 years now?
Oh, a while.
And we pay property taxes on it every year?
No, we don't pay
We
taxes.
don't pay taxes on it? No. Okay.
John, why don't you go ahead and just ask the question for the board's benefit if it's a buildable lot from the board, from the commission, and
That'd answer the question.
that answer the question. If it's buildable lot, that probably has more value. If it's not a buildable lot, it's just a,
Don't look back.
I can tell you I've heard both answers, but I'll get the definitive final answer because it's only 0.15 acres.
I don't think it's a buildable lot personally, but at least we can get that answer and move on with it. Like, if it is a buildable lot, yeah, it's got more value. But if it isn't, then if it's not a buildable lot, it's somebody's side yard.
What I would like to do is also, if I could, I'll ask that other question, that if either property owner purchased the property and joined it to theirs,
Could it
does
be
that make it
a
buildable?
lot? Yeah.
And that might answer the previous property owner's question, whether they could build a second unit of some size
Right.
on there.
Makes sense.
Okay, we'll bring it back in January.
Okay.
Yeah, if it does make it buildable, let me ask it this way. Is there an option to go back to the previous high bidder
I would.
and negotiate with them?
I would.
Yeah, we've already accepted that once, so.
Yeah.
Anything we can do to help that deal go along would be fine.
But you would negotiate a lower
No, I'd say go back this is a buildable piece of property, we will,
Sell it to them at that rate,
yeah,
is
we'll
what they
sell it
bid.
to you at that
Okay.
rate, and he might counter, but, I'd give him first dibs.
Okay, great, got my work. I will move forward with that.
Item agenda number 15, public. Any comments?
Hey, we ain't got but one public here.
Brush up.
And he's on the payroll.
Don't even have the economic council here this week.
Items from our attorney.
I have nothing for you.
But it says you do.
It says you do.
Rockies MHP.
Says it, what John put on here for me.
John Rocky and the evaluation.
On the Rockies mobile home, that is continuing. We do have a deposition of
Yep.
the trust, the individual who runs the trust for the Rocky parcel. That is set up for December 17th, I believe.
17th, I think it is.
So we will be doing that deposition of Mr. Mark Warda on that date.
It'll be a video. They're gonna video it.
Oh, boy.
We suspect there's gonna be some coaching going on, so we're captured on the video. And you have received the executive director evaluations. I emailed them to you, as well as a hard copy that went to John, the original. I don't know whether you want to discuss that or not, it's up to you guys.
Well, the last time we thought we were giving him raises every year, and we weren't. Remember?
Right.
So I think we need to look at,
Now's the time to talk about it.
yeah, I mean, not wait another year and say, oops. But I don't remember what we brought you up. We tried to catch it up a little bit on the last one.
I can't remember. I didn't come prepared to.
What,
there you go.
5%?
There you go.
Okay. And then this year, what did we do with staff? 1.5. Plus merit?
That was the merit, 1.5.
Okay, plus, no.
There may have been some
1.5
minor
plus
adjustments
bonus.
to on individual basis over and
Right.
above the 1.5%. But company-wide, it was set at 1.5% on the merit increase, plus there was no COLA, and there was your Christmas bonus, I guess,
Right.
that's coming up. Oh, he's correcting me. He pointed out there is a 1% COLA that we added.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
2.5% plus the Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah, so it
So the
comes up
COLA,
to
the COLA was applied, because
Right.
that was just across the board for, but the merit at 1.5% was only applied to below me.
That's my point. So we got 2.5% plus a 1% bonus?
The budget approved a 1% COLA for all employees.
Right. Then the
A
merit.
1.5% merit increase. It's merit, though.
Right.
And then a 1.5% bonus for all employees. That met the requirements. So someone's under probation, they don't get the
Right.
bonus.
Right, so that give us what?
3%,
3.5.
That's 3.5, right?
yeah.
I don't want to take my shoes off and figure that, so. 3.5?
That adds up to 4%.
Dadgum, accountants, shh. John, see, he ain't even figured it out yet.
I like John.
John was just listening. John was just listening. And clearly, I mean, if you're kicking around anything, this is just food for thought. But if the employee-wide was 1.5% on a merit basis, essentially that's kind of what you're looking at on the evaluation process, even for me, if you want a starting point, and then go up or down from there.
Why not do the same thing for him as we did for staff, which would be a 2.5 plus a 1.5% bonus. Did I say that correct? Okay.
And that's retro to October the 1st.
Sure.
to make it to the fiscal, no, I'm, to make it with the fiscal year.
Right, whatever we did for the staff, I would do for John.
Board in agreement?
Yes.
We need a motion?
We need
Is
to do
there,
that
you got a
formally.
motion?
We
Is
have
there
a
a motion?
Yes, that's the motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second?
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We all expect an envelope at our desk.
But and I apologize because I thought that's what we had set up a couple years ago. Whatever we were doing for them, we were doing for him, and then John
It would be appropriate to do that.
yes.
Should get the same as what we get, I think.
Well, if he gets the same as what we get, we'll probably lose him.
Moving on to item agenda number 17.
Thank you for your previous action. The first topic is the Tallahassee trip, and again, as we kind of briefly talked about it, it is for tomorrow. I can tell you that our CAS Governmental Services does have several different meetings arranged for the county delegation, whether that's the BOCC, City of Okeechobee, OUA. Clearly, the one meeting that would be for, that we would have to attend is one that's in the afternoon with Representative Rothschein for discussing the 4 projects that have been identified by the OUA as a funding request. Other than that, I haven't found any other meetings that specifically benefit the OUA. Certainly we could be up there to support other delegation members, whether that's for a stormwater project, a road project, whatever they have submitted on. But it is a long way to go for several meetings. And with the potential conflict tomorrow evening with the school board, I would certainly suggest that my time might be better spent for going to that. Dale won't be there, but Connie and Jim will be there with CAS Governmental Services representing the OUA, or an OUA board member could go up there. So that's kind of where I'm at with the Tallahassee trip tomorrow. I believe both Steve and John have other engagements and cannot attend Tallahassee.
There's no way I can go. I'm headed to North Carolina as soon as I get up from here.
But I think it would behoove us better when this is over to go down to Monroe County, you and Steve, and have a sit down with her, one-on-one. You're not going to get anything accomplished up there in 10 minutes.
Well, we don't know for sure, but I mean, it's, again, in years past, there were 3 or 4 meetings set up. And we've already met with our 2 delegation members, being Representative Pigman and Senator Albritton, as well as other members. So they already know what our game plan is and what our wishes are. We've already done that one-on-one with them, both here in Okeechobee as well as in their offices. So I feel we've covered those particular bases. The many meetings with Senator Simpson and Mayfield, and the one we tried to get with the Representative Rothschein, was just trying to build our case amongst other members that would have to vote on our appropriations.
I had spoke with Commissioner Burrows to see if it would behoove us or benefit us in any way to go up there and support them any way we could. And he gave me the answer, well, it's always good to have a face in the crowd type of thing. So I said, I wanted yes or no, Commissioner Burrows. You didn't give me a yes or no, so I'm taking a no. And like I say, Connie said that she had it covered. So I think we're good.
And certainly that's kind of where I have to leave it, as to, where is, since I can't be in both places at the same time. Even if we got out at 3:30, 4 o'clock in Tallahassee. There's no way I'm making it back tomorrow evening. So really, I'm at the direction of the OUA board, which way you want us to, which way you would like me to go, whether
This
Tallahassee.
project is active that we're doing right now, and the funding has been appropriated, so I think you need to, and it's my personal opinion, I think you need to be here to represent us to get this project up and going, and it's just like John just said, if we need to talk to her, they can shoot down or y'all can shoot down to her office in Monroe County. I know you'd rather go south and north anyway, so.
Well, I mean, Tallahassee's a pretty area, and
Beautiful
and sporting orange and blue up there in garnet and gold country is always wonderful. But be that as it may,
Hold on to it as long as you can.
you know, while you're up, you're up. I mean, you have to enjoy the ride.
Hey, I can't say nothing.
So, but either way is good for me.
The efforts that you and Steve have put forward are already showing up. The 4 House bills are filed. We've seen the House bills, and you've done your job. I mean, it's time to let them work through the House and the Senate now and
Yeah, I mean,
see what we can do.
Well, 2 of them are up for committee hearing on Wednesday. That will be done by Representative Pigman. In years past, we could have done it, but they have reset the policies that the sponsoring member has to do the presentation. So we could be there in attendance in the gallery, but we don't necessarily have a speaking role for that presentation. And that's on Wednesday. That would be the Southwest section, and I think Treasure Island are scheduled to be heard.
Yeah, and I mean, the trip I made up there, you're not even a face in the crowd. This crowd's so big.
It's tremendous. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, and they're just, you know.
Good job. Good job. You guys did a great job
Well, I
meeting
think,
early.
and again, we can go back to their offices and, we have to,
Well, it's just like John Kreisman said, the retention's better
there's no
when
question
you're
about it.
there one-on-one.
Yes.
They got too much on their plate.
Other issues, I'll go down real quick. Southeast 8th Avenue water main. This, just to remember, we have some older pipe in the ground, AC pipe and some galvanized steel pipe that has been slated for replacement. It's my understanding the contractor has met most of the pre-construction requirements for construction video and insurance and maintenance of traffic plan. That project will actually be starting momentarily. Whether or not they choose to do it this week or next week before the holiday or in January, that would be up to the contractor because their construction time has already started and they know how many days they have to do the project. So that should be starting fairly soon. Southeast 441 and Southeast 18th Terrace, the roundabout, the lovely project that we have. We have received our DEP permit as well as the DOT permit. We're actually scheduled to begin our construction work Tuesday night in the overnight to do one crossing and then follow the following night, Wednesday night of this week, to do the second crossing. Both of those will require lane closures. We have temporary lighting arranged. We have message boards, cones, traffic barricades. I believe we also have an off-duty law enforcement scheduled to be there with their lights on for a safety issue. The only thing that is questionable right now is Mother Nature. It's scheduled 25% rain chance tomorrow, 40 on Wednesday. That may stop us and we may have to put it off a week to do our work. We're going to kind of make that call late today as to whether or not we're going to continue the project as scheduled or whether or not we have to start calling people to cancel it and move it back a week, whether that's sheriffs, fire rescue, school board, testing labs, that type of deal. But that project has started. Physically, the work shortly. We'll do the two crossings. When the DOT acquires the necessary right-of-way, we'll do the other two aspects of the project. We're looking at doing that probably in February, March timeframe. Christmas luncheon, good food on the 12th. Everyone's welcome. It's a good time, good food. You get to meet all the employees. They get to meet you. We've extended an invite to County Commission and City Council. So hopefully it'll be a good turnout and good food, and everybody will be there. You can drive back from North Carolina, Mr.
Yeah,
Clay.
I got it.
And
I won't be getting the same food you are getting Thursday.
so the last thing is at your place setting is a pay request from R.J. Sullivan that we received, I assume it was over the weekend. R.J. Sullivan is the contractor doing the construction at the water treatment plant. If you've been by there, the storage tank is up, probably at the 90% mark. They currently are doing the yard piping and electrical. We soon should have construction started on the pump station. But for right now, there is this pay request of $98,601.59 that's been approved by the engineer of record. The board can consider this as a late request. You can either choose to pay it, or it will be back at the January meeting. Certainly our recommendation is to go ahead and approve this payment of $98,601.59 to R.J. Sullivan.
Make a motion to pay the bill.
I have a motion by Mr. Kreisman, a second by Mr. Clay. Any further discussion?
I have one thing, John. With the hurricane threat we had a few months ago, are they up to schedule? Are we running behind? Everything looking good?
They have not made a claim for time delay. Technically, I haven't actually seen it in this contract, but in most contracts, they have a window with which to make a claim for a delay once it's been identified. They haven't. So my take on it right now is there is no delay or cost element associated with the near miss of Hurricane Dorian. There have been some requests on some changes. They were minor in nature. There is a contingency fund within this contract, so none of that had to come up for a change order where we were physically changing construction time or construction dollars.
Keep our fingers crossed it follows schedule.
So far, they've been very, very good. Obviously, we were very lucky in the storm missing us and our community. So far, everything's been going along pretty good. All of the minor things that we've had to deal with have been really stuff out of their control, like unsuitable material in the construction area, more so than what we had anticipated. I think there was a minor issue with an electrical circuit in our ozone building that needed some changing, but it's all been very, very minor, knocking on wood, to date.
Anything else?
We have a motion, but I don't think we've voted on it yet.
We were under discussion.
We have a motion?
We already have.
And a second.
Yes, again. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Other than that, Mr. Chairman, that's all I had on items from the director.
Going back just for 1 second, with respect to the roundabout, do our employees have the proper reflective clothing for the night?
They certainly have all the approved vests that are required for that work. I can tell you that I have signed lots of pay requests for traffic cones, barricades. We're renting 2 portable light standards.
Right.
We have one for our work zone, 1 each for the flaggers. And with the investment in the law enforcement personnel, either 1 or 2 vehicles there with their lights on, I do believe that we've done quite a bit for safety of the work zone. We've borrowed some, the county was very good and loaned us two of these variable message boards where we can put those up before the work zone advising the motoring public of a lane closure ahead. So I think we've met or exceeded the safety requirements for this project. Yes, it's going to be dangerous. Anytime you're working on highway speeds, there is some certain amount of danger. At night, that raises the danger level a little bit, but by the same token, the amount of traffic is drastically reduced at night, so there will be fewer cars and trucks to deal with.
With the cop cars there, the visibility is tremendous with the lights. I travel a lot, and at night you can
It is
see
quite
it.
helpful. There is some inherent deal that in the motoring public, when you see the flashing lights, first instinct is to let off the gas and hit the brake. And that's why we wanted to rent them. I will tell you that we had one project where we had law enforcement on the site. They were behind a bunch of barricades, and they still got run over by a truck. Nobody was hurt, but you wonder how can that be possible that somebody pulls out and runs right up on the hood of a law enforcement vehicle. But it does happen. So when we're doing this, we have to make that assumption that danger is always present, and we just have to try to deal with it.
Yeah, everybody's gone to impact trucks on the interstate.
Well, those are quite beneficial if you have that lane closure.
Close, right.
And that's the first one. We typically don't have
The lane
impact trucks.
closed.
Other than trucks, we do try to park one vehicle on the upside of the project work zone that's not occupied.
And not movable like a backhoe?
It is a truck, but we do park one there usually for that benefit that is our impact. What we always have to worry about is that the truck is there, but it doesn't hinder the visibility for people to see what's going on.
My question, what if we, in the future, when we have a surplus truck, convert one of the surplus trucks over to an impact truck?
Yeah, you just take one of the larger ones. You just make an impact truck out of it.
What you do, put railroad ties all the way around?
Actually, they make an impact system for the back of them.
Right.
It's kind of like a soft barrier wall at a NASCAR race.
Yeah, it's an extension of the truck. It's a low orange thing you usually see on the back end of a vehicle. They're filled with.
There have been too many accidents lately all over the state of Florida.
It just makes a crumple zone is what it does. And it makes a crumple zone before you hit the truck that's not moving.
You know, for our business, we do have, like, say, aero boards. We have the variable message boards. I mean, I think we've gone over and above to clearly mark the work zone.
Oh, it's not us. It's unfortunately.
But what we can't control is what is that driver doing?
what's
Whether
coming
they're
at you.
tired, whether they're on their phone. Who knows what the driver is? And that's what we always have to try to guess as to, you know, what's coming at us. So we expected that if we, you know, if we have the deputies there, the law enforcement with their lights on, you know, we just hope that really gathers everybody's attention with the light towers fully lighting the whole work zone. We're certainly hoping that we've done our part to provide that safety.
You can do everything you can do, and you still got a nut out there that's on his phone or whatever.
Tired or
Yeah.
who knows? I mean,
Or intoxicated or whatever.
well, that's always a possibility, certainly. So we've done a lot. We've had probably 2 or 3 staff meetings planning for this. Lots of people adding their input. So we feel that we have this is a little bit of a different project for us, but we have the game plan set that will in the forefront protect OUA and their workers, and to get the job done in a timely fashion.
Very good. All right, appreciate it. items from the board?
Yeah, the new tower or the new water tank, we had discussed possibly of doing some artwork on it. And I did reach out to Miss Williamson, and she come up with a picture, and I'll have to get it from the, the museum, Historical Society. It's a pretty neat picture. It's a very old picture, and it's of the lake before there was a dike.
Oh, okay.
And it's got a few head old scrub cows drinking, but it's just neat, you know, because it is the history of the lake. And when you go around there, we either got to paint the top of that thing red like a button or do something with it, because it sticks out like a...
I thought we could put a sign on the top that says something like, "Welcome to Pahokee" or South Bay.
There you go, for the airplanes.
Just to mess with some folks.
But I'll try. I don't know if I'll be able to get that this month, but maybe I can get that set up for that to come in. And again, I thought she would be the perfect one to reach out to with all the history stuff she does in Okeechobee County, and she did come back with a recommendation. So
That would be neat.
That would be nice.
it's just a neat picture of, because it's probably right there in that area.
It probably is.
You
It
know,
probably is.
But there's no dike. It's just weird looking because there's no dike. You're just looking out onto this big lake. And so it's pretty neat. So I'll try to get, she said that we could either go take pictures of it or have someone bring it up here, so.
Can we take, okay. Can you make arrangements with me? I've got some high-end cameras that I can do.
I'm hoping we just bring it up here. Bring the picture up here. But yeah, if not, I'll get with you.
I've got some equipment we just brought in and expanding my business to something else. Yeah, we need to be proud of Okeechobee.
Oh, yeah.
We need to do something.
Yeah, so.
Is that what we decided to do, is paint a mural, or rather than put some, there was some other options, I mean, some
What-
cutouts or something, you know?
We haven't decided, but I was asked to handle this side of it, so this is
Okay.
the part that I've handled on it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we can put stripes on it, make it look like a barbershop thing. There's all kind of things you can do with it.
I just wonder what it would cost to maintain a mural as opposed to, you know, some of the other stationary artwork that could be stuck on it.
I don't know, the school board would be a good one
Thinking
because
of the one on the gym. I
gym's
don't
been there
know.
forever.
I don't know what they do about that.
And I don't know if y'all have noticed the new one going on the end of the building over
For the Markham Cannery.
Markham Canning Plant, but that lady's doing a phenomenal job on that picture.
Certainly what I would think that we would want to do if we had an idea like the picture that Mrs. Williamson is talking about, the picture would be good, but I think what we would end up doing is identifying 2 or 3 artists that can do this kind of work, make the suggestion to them, and let them bring back to this board their concept of what they could put on that canvas. And then we work from there to see which way y'all would like to go.
And that was one of the things I told her, was the picture we needed not to be of square buildings or anything, because we were on a round surface. And I think that's the reason she come back with that picture looking out onto the lake, because it'll
Be a
fit the
panoramic.
panoramic. So that part I did do.
Okay.
I'm not an artist, but
Well, we can certainly, if we get some pictures,
But we won't make you paint it.
that's a good thing. Unless y'all like stick men. But anyway, I'll try to get that back to us. And when you ride through, I go over and eat breakfast a lot on Sunday mornings over in Lake Placid, and I don't know what their maintenance has been on those murals over there, but that whole town is full.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely full. Every building's muraled, and they look good. It's, you know, and this has been for years. So, but do you think about the one on the side of the school, and then you think about the one that Haynes had put over here years and years ago of his dad.
And Gilbert got one on Gil put one on the old Chevrolet.
Right.
Yeah, all that he's done over here. So
Let's get the new one by Okeechobee Office Supply.
Yes. And the new one on the Market Building, that's really neat, the one she's doing there, so. Okay, that's all I've got.
Ms. Melanie, thank you for the lovely gifts
Oh, absolutely.
that you gave us.
Indeed, thank you, thank you.
And to the board, I'd like to wish everybody, both here and in the audience, a Merry Christmas and a happy and healthy New Year.
It's hard to believe, next year we'll have our first meeting.
Yes.
It's gonna be 2020.
It's a milestone.
See you Thursday.
Yes, Melanie, thank you, my dear.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's funny how we're still waiting for everything to crash at 2000, right? Now we're at 2020.
Remember when
Y2K.
Y2K was gonna be a big problem?
Yeah,
Here
so
we are
shut us all
20 years
down.
later.
Is that a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
There you go.
20 years later.
No, we just.